Good afternoon, this is Donnie Fuchs of the Judean Hammer. I wanted to speak today a little bit about a recent article I wrote for the Jewish Press where I addressed the issue of the Jewish indigenous rights activists. And I didn't want to focus so much on that topic because I've written for the Jewish Press two previous articles, We Are Not Indigenous, and what have you. I wanted to address peripheral issues to this already nonsensical idea. And once again, if you care to revisit the issue, for those who aren't convinced, this is an article that was written about a month or so ago, 2 months ago, perhaps a little longer. And I dissect that from a Torah perspective, the notion of indigenous rights doesn't exist because God told us to come and conquer the Canaanites, us being the Jewish people. What we're seeing today is a lot of Jewish and non-Jewish activists taking this up. A lot of these non-Jewish activists, they have some identity of their own. I'm not interested in getting into that right now. What I do want to say is that it's extremely chutzpahdik that there's at least one on the scene, one non-Jewish activist, and other ones also who parrot these indigenous rights, who have the gall to tell Jews to reclaim their identity. What kind of chutzpah is this? You don't know anything about Judaism, about halakha, about Torah. What are you telling Jews to reclaim their identity? Because some people want to make this association with the indigenous peoples of the world. And, that term also is a very vague term. It's used so arbitrarily. No one agrees, even in the camps of people who subscribe to these ideas. They can't even agree what indigenous is. And they'll always cite this UN definition that was accepted. These are the same people who will attack the UN, but they pick definitions of indigenous. Of course, also the very same UN, which will pursue the rights of every people, including the Arabs who have no right to our land, based on Torah, that, of course, they jump on them. They see them as indigenous, and they don't buy the nonsense that Jews are indigenous. But even if they did, that's not our Jewish claim to the land. But I wanted to get into another thing, because now I wrote an article where I addressed this fellow, Yehuda HaKohen. He's on Facebook, and he's one of these religious indigenous rights activists. But what's even more dangerous, and this falls under the radar a lot, and this was the crux of my article, that he actually is part of a new of a group, Alternative Action, I believe it's called, an alternative peace movement. And these are people, this is very dangerous, because what you have now are people who seem to think that you can hold on to the land of Israel without hold on to every inch, follow the halakha, don't give up 1 inch, fight for the land, but you can also keep the non-Jews. And he also refers to the Arabs, unlike other indigenous rights activists who claim to support Israel. He will actually, this Yehuda Cohen that is, will actually refer to them as indigenous, and they have these meetings, this other group, Lavi, and other groups, these stupid, foolish meetings where they pander and they speak with these Arabs who hate Jews, who have their perspective, and this camp is creating a new peace movement. I want to make this very clear. They're creating a new peace movement that caters to certain people, because some people want have this notion, they're afraid of being strong on the Arab question. This was a real problem, and to a large degree is today. Many camps of people who identify with Rav Kook in the certain Dati Lumi worlds, they will misapply the notion of Ger Toshav to Arabs without even getting into that particular Jewish sugya. Now, it does not apply to Arabs for many reasons. First of all, they don't adhere to them by and large. And secondly, the notion of another religion, of fake prophets, clearly, according to Rambam and others, is against the laws of Noah. So to apply but this is a very popular notion, and some of these activists find within this school of thought, I believe Rav Kook actually, the father, referred to the Arabs in that context as B'nai Noach. I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe that is the case. or at least saw the possibility or an allowance within that framework. I vociferously, respectfully disagree with that. I don't know where he sees that in the Rambam. Peace movements are dangerous not just when they come from Shimon Peres or classical Shalom Achshavniks. Peace movements are dangerous when they come from Jews in Tekoa, from Jews who followed this Fruman years ago, who met with Yassin, Yimach Shemo B'Zichro, and Arafat, Yimach Shemo B'Zichro. And in one of these meetings, where one of these fellows who was involved in one of these groups, a Jewish fellow, a religious-looking fellow, along with Yehuda Cohen and this other woman and some other people whose names I don't know. And he was referring to his Rabbi Froman who passed away. This guy was a dangerous guy. Sick. He had these notions. And so this guy's recounting a story to this audience of Arabs and Jews. And he's saying, my rabbi said something to the effect, word for word, I don't recall, but that he said to Yassin, he said, the problem is that your heretics and my heretics got together and made a deal. And you and I could make peace together. Yassin? Yasser Arafat? This is how a rabbi speaks? But this is the problem. It's this magical kumbaya notion that has infected the brains of even rabbis, people with smicha. Whether their popularity is large, whether their names are well known or not. So I came out against this Yehuda Cohen because in his Facebook account, he gave some sympathetic notions, reflections on what the Arabs call the Nakba, because he's always in, let's understand their narrative, and we can make sure we both can get the same thing by appreciating the other's narrative and live. I'm not going to get into his full foolish ideology because I don't fully understand it. It doesn't make sense. They'll parrot talking points, but it's complete foolishness. The Arab is not going to be happy because we gave him cars, insurance, malls, good places to eat and to shop. That's not going to stop Arab hatred. That's not going to stop hatred from Arab nationalism and Islamic hatred of Jews. Beware the new peace movements, and a lot of them are coming into the religious camp from this camp of Jewish indigenous rights activists. It's very dangerous. We need to expose it. Have a good day.